For day 5, we're looking at the surface area and volume of spheres. So for this one, there's not a whole lot of different things to do. Once you kind of figure out the process, you're going to be able to solve most of these problems pretty easily. So for the surface area, we're going to be using the formula 4 times pi times r squared. And for the volume, we're going to use 4/3 pi times the radius cubed. Keep in mind that when you see this 3 here, that means that you're going to multiply this radius times itself 3 times. So if this was 4 to the 3rd power, 4 times 4 times 4. Okay. And if you don't have a calculator that will do this, or you don't have, if you're watching this video, you should have internet access, and you can put this stuff in with Google using a 4, and then that's called a caret. Which is on the 6 key on a keyboard. Shift 6 will do that. And then you would put in a 3. That's going to tell your computer, if you're doing it on, say, Google, if you're Googling the answer for 4 to the 3rd, it's going to give you this right here. Okay, but you can also just do that by hand on your own. So for the surface area of the first problem here, I'm going to take the example problem on the worksheet, which is a radius of 10. So when I'm looking at that, I'm going to take 10 and plug it in for r. So I'm going to do 4 times pi times 10 squared. Now this is not as straightforward as it could be, because if we were just going to go ahead and get an answer with a decimal, we would just put all this into a calculator and multiply. But we're going to leave this in terms of pi, like we were on the previous worksheet with the cones. And I think they were doing that on the circle worksheet on day 2 also. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to simplify everything outside of the pi. So can't do anything with that 4 just yet, but I can go ahead and square that 10. So 10 squared is 10 times 10, which is 100. And then I'm just going to multiply the 2 numbers that are left, 4 times 100, and get 400 pi. And the units on this were centimeters. And for surface area, this is going to be centimeters squared. For volume, I'm going to use 4/3 pi and then r, or radius, 10 to the 3rd power. And I'm going to do kind of the same thing. I'm going to do my exponents first. So 10 times 10 times 10 is 1,000, keeping the rest of it the same. And then I'm going to multiply 4/3 times 1,000. Now in this worksheet, they're not giving the fractions as decimals. If they come out nicely, if it will divide out at the end, they're going ahead and doing that. But for this one, I can't take 1,000 and this is not going to come out as a decimal when I do the math. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to multiply this fraction by this number. So to multiply 4/3 times 1,000, I need to put 1,000 over 1. Always take a whole number, put it over 1 to make a fraction, and then I'm going to multiply straight across the top. So 4 times 1,000 is 4,000, 3 times 1 is 3, and then carry my pi down. So the volume for this one is 4,000 over 3 pi centimeters cubed. Volume is always a cubed unit. So let's look at one that's a little bit different, and this is if the radius is 27. So still the same basic process for surface area. I'm going to do 4 pi times my radius squared, so 27 squared. 27 times 27 is 729. Make that look a little bit more like an exponent. And then last step, multiply 4 times 729, and we get 2,916 pi. The units for this one, let's make it millimeters. This one just came up off the top of my head, so don't look for this answer anywhere on your worksheet or this question, you won't find it. So the units would be millimeters squared. For volume, on this one, I'm going to do 4/3 pi times 27 to the 3rd power. So 27 to the third power is, big number, 19,683. And then lastly, I'm gonna multiply 4/3 times this. So like we did over here, I'm gonna put 19,683 over 1 and multiply that by 4/3. So on top, I'm gonna do 4 times my answer back there. Oh, gotta love calculator issues. So that gives us 78,732, and then 3 times 1 is 3. Now check this, make sure that doesn't divide by 3. If it does divide by 3 evenly, then that's the number we're going to use for our answer. So that is 26,244 pi millimeters to the third. So just check your answer at the end once you multiply your fractions. Make sure that it doesn't reduce by evenly dividing by 3, and that will give you your answer for that.